sin is flourishing, that means the demons are given more power. And let me tell you something, in the last 5 years, I used to do the rite of exorcism, and it would be maybe one, possibly two sessions, and the person would be set free. And now it's taking, like 3, 4, 5 times. So I have to keep rescheduling people, which is very cumbersome, all the while new cases are coming in. And so it just gets to the point where it's becoming an overload, right? I had to go to my diocese and ask for a second exorcist because I said I simply can't keep up. Chicago now has 4, but that's such a big diocese, I don't even know how they manage. But we've all noticed when the exorcists get together and talk, we've all realized something is happening where it appears that the demonic presence is having a stronger effect on people, where it's more difficult to break them off.
The cases of actual possession are relatively rare, but they are certainly far more numerous today than they were years ago. The priest who was exorcist before me, I asked him at one point, had he ever had an actual case of a formal possession? And he said no. All right. Right now, I probably have about 5 or 6 actual cases. In fact, I had two full exorcisms yesterday.
Oh my!
So it's a very challenging time within which we live.
Well, that was actually one of the first questions I had, was the sort of landscape right now compared to even when you started too. I mean, is it something you've seen? Because like you said, your predecessor didn't have nearly that many. Have you seen, just even in your own time or last few years, a surge in your own experience?
Well, I can tell you any number of the nationally known exorcists, most of whom I do know personally, have all made the statement that all hell has broken loose. And I heard recently that Franklin Graham, Billy Graham's son, recently made this public statement that every demon in hell has been let loose on earth. And I would tend to agree with both of them. The times in which we live are times where demonic influence is overwhelming. And I think that it can be summed up in 4 things. The first is sex, right, which has completely dominated the culture within which we live. And under that, you include things like abortion, other things you can include like that, but the pride issues, the transgender issues, all of which are demonic, demonic. The second thing is the drug culture. Everybody's using drugs today for one reason or another, recreational drugs or, addictions, all of those sorts of things. Those are all demonic influences. So then the third thing is the occult. Everybody's into the occult today. They're using all kinds of different sorts of, tarot cards, Ouija boards, seances, you name it, they're into it. One of the college chaplains referred a young man to me. This young man had been at another school, but now transferred to the one he was at. Described a situation in which he had gone through his atheistic phase when he really didn't believe in anything. He met a girl who wanted to have sex with him. And apparently he had not had sex before. So he was interested, but it turned out that she was practicing witch. Before they had sex, she asked him to drink something that she had mixed in her cauldron. And he said he did. He said it looked like water, but it was rather pasty. And so after he did that and after they had sex, he began having all kinds of problems and difficulties. He did go to confession. He went through a conversion process. But he came to me. I had to do some special deliverance prayers over him because he now had a soul physical tie to a witch. And he had ingested something that was cursed. So there's all kinds of ways in which demons can get in there. But I think the interesting thing was, after it was finished, he said he felt so much better. But then he said to me, Father, you would actually be very amazed at how widespread these kinds of things are in the college campuses. And then, the fourth one, I think probably is the root of all of this, is the complete collapse of faith. When there is no faith, then we search for other answers, and they go to all of these other kinds of experiences, none of which will satisfy, but all of which are tools of the demonic.
Yeah.
The whole sacramental system of the Catholic Church is based on this fact that the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, that the spiritual and the supernatural interpenetrate every aspect of the natural world. And if we try to separate them, we're not dealing with reality. That's probably one of the reasons why, 2/3 of Catholics don't believe in the real presence of the Eucharist anymore.
Right.
So there's the problem. They've missed this interpenetration of the natural and the supernatural, all right? And it all comes down to the incarnation. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us. Christ Jesus truly became man, right?
Sure.
And so that vision has to define our reality, the fact that there are angels all around us as well as demons all around us. And we have to deal with that fact. Now, the other side of the problem is, going to the point that you were making, that sometimes people will not accept responsibility for their own choices. And so therefore they want to blame everything on the devil. It's all the devil's fault. He did this, he did that. But they don't accept responsibility for their own cooperation with the devil, right? They don't expect, and that's the problem. The second thing that runs into the problem is the fact that how they treat exorcism or even deliverance ministry. It's almost they treat it like a magic ritual. They call the priest, he comes in, he says the words, sprinkles the holy water, does it, and that's supposed to cure the problem. No. Exorcism is a conversion process. It requires a change of heart, a change of perspective, a change of life. And the other thing that's becoming increasingly difficult is the fact that so many people who are calling us are not Catholic. They will go to their ministers, and the ministers will say, call the Catholics, they deal with that stuff. Or the ministers will go in and they'll try to do some prayers or whatever, and it doesn't work. And so they have to call the priest. But then I'm limited because I can't send the person to confession. I can't send them to Holy Communion. I mean, that so many of those resources are not available to them because they're not Catholic. But that doesn't mean we can't help them, but it's much more difficult and much more challenging. One thing is very true, that demons are legalists. I always jokingly say that, demons who make good Catholics are good lawyers, because they can only do what they are permitted to do and nothing more, right? They play by the book, okay? So in every single case, one of the things we have to do is, okay, what has given this demon the legal right to be here? All right, and that's a very crucial question, because it's usually something that the person has done that has opened the door, that has allowed the demonic influence in.
Sure.
And so, by living a good, holy life close to Christ, close to the sacraments, close to the Eucharist, we make sure that we don't open any portals, any doors. But people are slipping up in so many different ways that they're just, they're inviting the devil in. And then when they get into trouble, then they come running for help. Well, you caused the problem,
Right.
You have to admit it, and that's the first step in healing, I've said many, many times in many different places, the single most powerful tool that we have against the devil is the sacrament of penance. Get to confession. I mean, it should be no surprise that when the people stopped going to confession, the demons started taking control. All right? Sure, continue your prayers, continue all the other stuff, but get to confession on a regular basis, because what you tell in the confessional is blocked from the consciousness of the demon, and he cannot use it against you. Just like the seal, okay? So get to confession. That's what I would suggest the most important tool that we have against Satan.